what's up and welcome back to Enterprise Tech Talk. My name is Bennett Smith. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to check out the channel and share your thoughts. So let's jump right into it. Salesforce 101. I think 3 of the most important things that you need to be thinking about when evaluating your next Salesforce partner. If you haven't been paying attention to Salesforce, man, over the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of things have changed. They have really moved past the CRM and opportunity management space and are now way into customer service and marketing and e-commerce and collaboration. And they bought Heroku recently, Datorama, MuleSoft on the integration side. There's a lot going on over there. IDC, I believe it is predicting that the Salesforce economy, if you will, over the next 4 or 5 years, I believe the number is around 3 million new jobs that the Salesforce economy will create. So if you're not one of the tens of thousands of customers that are leveraging Salesforce already, there's a very high probability that over the next 4 or 5 years, you may find yourself a Salesforce customer. And it very well might not be in the traditional opportunity management or kind of Salesforce automation space. So I think this is something that's relevant to really everybody out there regarding Salesforce and what you should be thinking about if you're buying Salesforce, you bought Salesforce, or you're entertaining Salesforce from a functionality and evaluating their tool set. So let's jump right into it. Number 1, I think this is just so often overlooked, and this is, does your partner have industry vertical expertise in the space that you play in? This is mission critical for long-term success with any Salesforce rollout or implementation, and really missing this is just going to be, quite frankly, detrimental to your success long-term with Salesforce. And when we talk about industry vertical expertise, what I mean is kind of really resist the temptation to jump right to the Gartner ratings and see who the best around quote unquote Salesforce is, and find someone, yes, that has Salesforce experience, but maybe even more so has experience in your vertical industry. Because whether you're in consumer goods, or even a sub-vertical of that, fast-moving consumer goods, or retail, or the restaurant business, or financial services, or logistics and manufacturing, there's a lot of differences, sometimes minute, but oftentimes, these massive differences in different business processes that are really relevant and need to be taken into account when you're thinking about a partner. The order to cash process is a popular one, where there is a lot of differences between maybe what happens in the financial services world when somebody makes an order or goes out to acquire some type of financial service from a bank, versus the order to cash process that may take place in a manufacturing facility or in an e-commerce channel. So really having a partner who understands not only the lingo of your vertical industry, but has experience and best practices around building those objects in fields and using things like Process Builder inside of Salesforce to very efficiently and quickly build out things that are going to be really beneficial for your industry vertical is really important to the long-term adoption of Salesforce, and ultimately how able you are going to be as an organization to upgrade and take advantage of future releases of Salesforce as they come, usually 3 times a year. The second one I think is also really important, and that is really demanding from your partner an understanding of the resumes of the people that are coming to work on your project. So I see it all the time. It's really tempting to, as you're interviewing partners or going out to talk to analysts, to think about, or just immediately jump to who's done the most Salesforce work. And while it definitely is important to have wins and losses in your bag of tricks when it comes to Salesforce as a partner. What's even more important is the people that are actually showing up to your meetings to do your implementation and to understand your architecture and your business process. I see it all the time, especially with large partners where they've got a Salesforce practice or a practice really around any piece of software, and the conversation kind of goes, hey, Mr. Consultant, I need you to hop on a plane and fly to Indianapolis next Wednesday to talk about Salesforce. Well, I don't really know that much about Salesforce. Well, I need you to know something by Wednesday, so please, get to reading, right? That happens, but that's not the people that you want in your meetings. That's not the people that you want on your project, right? So really understanding upfront and even throughout the project what that looks like for you and your organization is just important, and you need to demand it, right? I think sometimes we think, well, maybe that's unreasonable, or I can't get that information. If your partner thinks that that's unreasonable or is unwilling to share the resumes of the people that are going to be working on your project, just plain and simple, you need to find a new partner. There's no other way to put it. So really pay attention to that. The last thing, and this is just so mission critical, and another thing that's often overlooked, is the integration of Salesforce, right? You can build the most beautiful Salesforce org in the world with the most out-of-the-box objects, clean user interface, intuitive business processes. But the reality is if you haven't connected and integrated Salesforce in the backend to the other systems inside your enterprise architecture that are relevant to showing end users or customers the data that they need to see, your Salesforce implementation in a lot of ways is going to be kind of all for naught, right? And there's a really high probability that Salesforce is not going to be the only system of record that you have. You may keep pricing in particular areas or past orders, or you may keep some of that in Salesforce, but you may have a data warehouse somewhere where you're storing those things. You may be running SAP or Oracle or JD Edwards or something in NetSuite in the background, and really having a partner who has the right people, understands the business processes and the uniqueness to your vertical industry, and then ultimately understands how to integrate those things in a way that is where those integrations are reusable and then surface the right data in that kind of engagement layer of Salesforce is really important. And it really becomes even more important when you start talking about leveraging things like bots, artificial intelligence. If you're staying in the Salesforce stack, things like Einstein, having those integrations in the back end are just so critical to the long-term success that you will have with your Salesforce implementation and the adoption that you're going to see with your users. So when you offer up things that are intuitive, and you offer up things that are of innate value, that encourage people to use your tools because they quite frankly can't live without the data and the insights that you're providing them, that is when you have a winning combination. And that starts with, again, having the right partner who understands your vertical industry and the niche around that. Don't skimp on that or skip over that. Demanding that the people that are on your project have the right skill set and the right resume. And then ultimately those people that are on your project and that understand your business processes know how to do it in a way from a integration perspective that is going to really drive long-term value and reusability of those components across the organization for the long term. So real quick, those are the three things that I think are often overlooked, but just super important when you're thinking about your next Salesforce partner. Quite frankly, they're really important when you're thinking about any software platform that we talk about on this channel, but certainly specific to Salesforce. So want to keep those things in mind. Thanks again for checking in with the channel. I always appreciate your thoughts and feedback. some things that are upcoming on the channel. What's the difference between AI and human brains, and how do we use those? How do we take things like the computational power of AI engines, but then combine those things with really the sensory consciousness and feeling that comes from being human? How do you combine those things for business value? Will AI replace humans? The short answer is no. We won't be a society of robots, but there certainly is a place for those things. How to use bots in the most efficient way for customer service. What does true contextualized marketing look like? So these are all some things that are coming up on the channel. The next episode, I'm going to touch on should you use and be embarking in the progressive web app space. Big believer in PWA, so kind of a spoiler alert there. But I always love to hear your feedback and your opinions, and I love to respond to your thoughts. In fact, the episode coming up on progressive web apps comes from a listener out in the audience, so thank you for the question. We're going to touch on that in the very next episode, but please submit your questions, like, subscribe, comment down below, share these videos if you enjoy them, and as always, you can shoot me an email at enterprisetechtalk@gmail.com. Again, my name's Bennett. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to check out the channel, and best of luck in all of your enterprise technology endeavors.